So Putin was very pissed off, wasn't he? He had one of his ships blown up, and he decided he'd have a go. And I think on the 30th of December, he launched his biggest ever strike on Ukraine.
He did. It was a mix of missiles that was the Shahed 136 drones, those low-speed drones we've been talking about come from Iran, relatively easy to shoot down. But they also had a mix of cruise missiles, about 60 cruise missiles, if I remember.
Oh.
Also the Kinzhal. Remember the hypersonic missiles that Russia introduced during this war? Didn't think there were more than a handful of those around. Apparently 10 of those were launched that night as well.
Yeah.
And this created a massive wave of damage across the whole of the country.
But for the damage, it must have cost Russia a fortune.
It did, but they did the accounts afterwards, adding up the various costs, and they reckon it was over $1 billion. And that's worth reiterating. I'm not misspeaking. Over $1 billion of missiles in one day's strikes. And that just gives you an impression of what the resources available to Russia are. Now, some of these were shot down, the Ukrainians claim, but inevitably some would have got through. Now, Zelensky was really angry about this. The very next day, he launched a retaliatory attack onto Russia, but attacked Belgorod. It's a little border town. It's only about 25 kilometers into Russia, which apparently is meant to be a military logistics hub. The film footage and everything we saw from the attack on that, evidently a lot of military targets, and apparently 25 people died and 100 people were injured in that.
So the air was full of, that's a lot. The air must have been full of missiles.
Yeah, for the Ukrainians doing their attack, one of the problems is that they can't use Western-supplied weapons. So Russia can attack anywhere it likes in Ukraine. Ukraine, if it's going to attack anywhere in Russia, it can't use any of the Western-supplied weapons.
That's the rule. That's a condition of...
That's a condition of, say, Storm Shadow, 250-odd miles, maybe more, not allowed to be used against targets. So you either use drones against Russia, which are relatively easy to shoot down, or use artillery. Artillery has a range of 18 kilometers. If it's rocket-propelled or guided, it goes out to 30 kilometers. How far is Belgorod inside the Russian border? About 25 kilometers. So it makes it you hit what you can rather than what you want to hit. And in a way, this is another good example of where Ukraine is struggling to fight Russia with one hand tied behind its back. But the key thing we probably didn't spot on that evening was that ever since then, every time Russia's launching these attacks, Poland's launching pairs of F-16 fighter jets. And the reason it's
to attack or...
Well, they're also they're tankers as well. Part of that is because on that night of the 30th of December, it's alleged that some of the Russian missiles flew through Polish airspace en route to their targets. Now, if that proves to be true, Poland is a NATO country, and that means Russia was firing live cruise missiles at and into NATO airspace. The risks of that going wrong are huge. And that is a very worrying sign. There's lots of other questions about, surely if those missiles went in NATO airspace, they should have been shot down. I'd answer yes, but if you weren't expecting them, then that might explain why, when they're flying quite fast, they got through. But this is another sign of the potential for this conflict to escalate when it's so highly kinetic and there's so many moving parts to it.